on behalf of the Community Mexican Fiesta Association to allow the mayor to proclaim the month of September 2021 as Hispanic Heritage Month in Garden City, Kansas.
Entertain a motion on this item.
I move that we approve.
There's been a motion to approve the proclamation as presented. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Dick. Any discussion on this item? None being all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. That item passed. Item B.
Item 6B, the governing body is asked to consider and approve the following requests from Angelica Castillo Chapel, President of the Community Mexican Fiesta.
And this is,
Item number 1. I guess, Seelyn, do you want to present these?
Yes, I can. Angelica is unable to make it. She does want to thank you all for your prior assistance with this and thank staff for their assistance with the Fiesta. They hope to move forward with the Community Mexican Fiesta, but they are watching COVID numbers in our community. They come before you today. They had the 2 requests. One was to place signs at Stevens Park 2 weeks prior to the September 11th event, and then also to serve zero malt beverage or alcoholic liquor at the Stevens Park on that day from 1 to 5 p.m.
and they'll have kind of a designated area for people and that type of
Yes.
thing and everything.
Celia,
So-
at what point will they make a decision on whether or not to hold the Mexican Fiesta?
I do not have the answer
Okay,
to that.
I didn't know if she was like a week before or prior. Okay.
Entertain a motion on item number 1. If there's no
Okay.
other questions,
I move that we approve the request from Community Mexican Fiesta.
there's been a motion to approve the sale and possession of consumption of cereal malt beverages from 1 to 5 in a beer garden on September 11th by Commissioner Dick.
And also the sign, waiver of the sign fees.
I think are we
So are we
doing
doing
them
them separate?
together or are we doing separate? We can do them together.
What was the motion?
Request as presented. Approve the request of the Community Mexican Fiesta, which in
Is
this
the-
has both. of them.
Okay. Matt said number 1 and, okay, that's fine. So the motion was to approve both items that are presented to the commission. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Euler. Is there any other discussion on that item? None being all in favor, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed, nay. Those items pass. Thank you.
Item C, the governing body is asked to consider and approve signs to be located in the city right-of-way on Kansas Avenue from Campus Drive west to 2nd Street, 3rd Street, and Kansas Avenue for the Peddlers Market from October 18th through 24th, 2021. This would also include the sign to be placed on Main Street and Isabel on October 23rd through 24th, 2021. Seelyn.
Hello.
Hello. I've lost her name. Arlene Clark with Peddlers Market. She wasn't able to be here today either, but she is just requesting sign placement. I did speak with our Parks Department, and he only wants to go out with her when she places those signs just to make sure that they're not in the sprinkler area
Mhm.
That's
to
fine.
damage sprinkler heads. So he did request that. Other than that, this is similar to prior requests that they've come before you guys on.
But again, these will be in the right-of-way along the street.
But I guess you can avoid the sprinklers, so.
I know
I don't know.
that previously, some of the issue was even if these were placed correctly, somebody else might
You can do the same
assume
thing.
that it was just placed by
place there,
themselves and then they
start
would
putting
then,
them in.
right.
And then the signs on Main Street, where would that be at in Isabel?
That was at a private business. I'm unsure
Okay.
what that business is, but they did have written permission from that business.
I think it used to be the liquor store, now it's the dog wash, isn't
Oh,
it? Something like
okay.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the 3rd Street and Kansas Avenue, that's the Friends and
Friends and
Frogs?
Frogs.
Okay.
Mhm.
And then the campus, right there, Campus Drive.
It's on Kansas Avenue from
I think
campus.
I think we had the discussion of having them in the right-of-way was kind of the issue. Then people would assume that they could start putting signs in the right-of-way and then damaging the sprinkler system instead of. I wouldn't have a problem putting them in the parks. I mean, that's what we normally do.
Last year, when we worked this out with Peddler's Market, we identified some spaces, provided
I thought so
them
too.
on a map,
yeah.
kind of limiting the area, and it worked out last year. Not that you're obligated to do it the way you did it last year, but we felt it satisfied our concerns about authorizing people to go in and place these where we had some drip irrigation and some normal, regular irrigation, but we identified the places that were kind of clear zones, and including on Taylor, which isn't in this request but has been on some other people's, where we have kind of that public right-of-way that isn't adjacent to somebody else's property. There's sort of setbacks from the satellite streets that create kind of the greenway.
Well, and then I know right after we approved this, there was some other requests from other organizations that came forward. And I don't know if we approved those or not.
We did.
We did.
We limited,
Fantasy
I think,
But right, I think they all said to work with the city, just
Right,
like you're
yeah.
indicating.
kept it the map, and, we were gonna, at some point in time, if you had 5 events going on and it got
Right.
too cluttered,
Sure.
you'd probably address that at that point in time, but even with 1 or 2 events going on at the same time, there's enough space.
So how would the commission
Well, I
like
would
to
consider,
proceed forward?
I would approving this event with the knowledge that they'd work with the city to really locate the signs. So with that, I'll go ahead and I'll move to approve the request only if they work with the city to locate the signs.
There's been a motion to approve the request as presented. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Ortiz. Any other discussion on this item? None being, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Nay. That passed. Moving on to item number C. Oh, no, 7.
Item 7 is the report of the city manager. All of these items are staff reports. If you've got questions on them, I'd be glad to try to answer those.
I just did want to say, I noticed in the airport that your July was outstanding. I mean, it was excellent. And I was able to take advantage of it. I actually got a seat by myself, so I didn't say anything last night. The person didn't show up, and so I was really not relieved or anything, but the whole rest of the plane was booked, so anyway. But it was a really, and they did a really good job. We had some problems in Dallas, but in Garden City, everything went like clockwork, so I just really appreciate, and having parking so close, I don't think people realize how much money that saves. We had a discussion on the plane about how much parking people are paying in Dallas and other places, and it is, hopefully that's something that we don't have to do, but if it is, I understand, so.
And just a couple other things I would add. I was able to join Fred Jones, Water Resource Manager, and our consulting engineers that are working with us on the Bureau of Water Reclamation project, and we were able to give a presentation to the Kansas Water Authority, so that was a real treat, and was well received. That's a big group from all across the state, and it also includes some members of the legislature and members of some administrative departments, a couple different cabinet secretaries on that board. So that was a neat opportunity to kind of present on that project, really kind of in the first way publicly, outside of what we would do in a pre-meeting or something like that, to really start to message about that water reuse project with other people in the state. It was extremely well received. Also, we received notification yesterday, police chief informed me that we received notification yesterday that Finney County's exercising their the cancellation clause and the agreement that we struck up for the evidence, digital evidence position at the first of the year. You may remember where, and then we both kind of jointly planned to purchase half of that. We've hired this person as recently as a month ago. We'll continue to leave the expense side of it on our budget, but just know that the revenue side of it will change. So, there's still, I suppose, time to reconsider on their part, but just want to let you know that,
Did they offer a reason why, Matt, or did they,
so my information came from chief, and so
Okay.
we'll,
so we can ask?
just kind of leave it at, we received notice.
Okay.
I think that takes care of report of the city manager items. Meetings of note, you'll see those items on there. We've got the Southwest Kansas Coalition meeting coming up next week. I think that's the only thing. Yeah, chamber breakfast tomorrow, chamber breakfast tomorrow, yeah.
This is important.
And wine tasting event, I guess if the city does have tickets to those, so RSVP through CLN if you would. I think we're ready for 9A, appropriation ordinance, if approved, to number 2537-2021A.
I move to approve ordinance number 2537-2021A.
There's been a motion to approve appropriation ordinance number 2537-2021A. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Euler. Any discussion on that item? None being, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. That item passed.
Item 10A, the governing body is asked to consider and approve the following resolution regarding the 2021 general obligation, resolution number 2885-2021. Melinda?
Back on July 20th, the governing body authorized with proceeding with the 2021 general obligation bond issue by approving ordinance number 2907-2021 for improvements to the Garden City Regional Airport and ordinance number 2908-2021 for improvements to public parks and improvements to Fulton Street. So the next step upon your consideration of this resolution would be the process of consideration and approval of this resolution, and the bond sale will be at 10 a.m. on September 21st, 2021. The Garden City Regional Airport improvements, Southeast Community Park improvements, and Finnip Scout Park improvements are all authorized under the city's charter ordinance number 31, Home Rule Authority. The Fulton Street Drainage Project is authorized under the Traffic Way Act. Mary Carson, our city bond counsel, prepared this resolution for your approval. So you have alternatives to adopt this resolution or defer to a later date. Staff does recommend that you approve this resolution. The fiscal note, the improvements for the parks and the Fulton Street drainage debt payments are budgeted in the Bond and Interest Fund number 40 over 10 years beginning in 2022. The Garden City Regional Airport improvement debt payments are also budgeted in the Bond and Interest Fund number 40 over a 15 or 20 year beginning in 2022. And we're looking for an alternative revenue source for the debt service at this time.
Melinda, I just want to say thank you. I appreciate the calendar that was included in here also. I had a question on the calendar where it talked about, on the 18th, it talked about for the submit draft documentation to Moody's Investor Service.
Yes.
Does Mary Carson prepare that, or is it just a bond rating? Because I know that really.
No, that's actually what I prepare for.
Oh, nice,
Me
okay.
and Brett Sjogren from
That's right, okay.
Stifel and
remember him.
Company. So we prepare that for Moody's.
And so then that helps determine the rate at which we can, our financial strength, and then also the rate at which we can also expect.
We have an extensive phone call that entails myself and City Manager Matt, and also Mike Muirhead joins in on that call with Moody's.
I just want to make sure how that process worked. Thank you.
They have a whole different process than they used 2 years ago. They can just zoom in on Google Maps and pull up all this stuff and see what's going on in Garden City. Okay.
Entertain a motion on this item then.
I move that we adopt the resolution as presented.
There's been a motion by Commissioner Unruh. There's a second.
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Dick. Any other discussion on this item? None being, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. That item passed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 10B, the governing body is asked to consider and approve an ordinance to place before the city electorate on November 2nd, 2021, ballot a question to levy a general purpose sales tax. If approved, this would be ordinance number 2909-2021. I'll start out. We've got a couple other staff members that may weigh in, but the Garden City Regional Airport Terminal project is in the final stages of design. The project funding picture is as below. The $30 million total cost, approximately. CARES Act funding of just short of $18 million. FAA entitlement money of a little over $3 million. KAAP money, which is the Kansas Affordable Airfares Program, of $1 million, leaving the $8 million balance that for which you just moved forward with issuing general obligation bonds. So the in a 15-year debt service scenario on those bonds, the annual payment is estimated to be $654,000. In a 20-year debt service scenario, the annual payment is estimated to be $532,000. If this annual amount were to be paid through property tax, it would equate to either 2.9 mils or 2.3 mils, respectively. The local ordinance before the governing body today would allow voters the opportunity to vote to levy a local sales tax in an amount equal to or less than the amount of the sales tax currently being collected for Horse Thief Reservoir and scheduled to be removed January 1, 2022, thereby eliminating the annual property tax impact of the bond for the local portion of the airport terminal project. As drafted, the incremental difference between annual sales tax collections and the airport debt service would be used for smaller parks, recreation, sidewalk trail system improvements, and property tax stabilization. Your alternatives are 4 as presented, and then of course the option of not approving the ordinance and moving forward with a sales tax ballot issue. So alternative 1 would be a 15-year, 0.15 of a cent sales tax, or 3/20 as the ordinance describes it. Option 2 would be a 15-year, 1/10 of a cent sales tax. Option 3, a 20-year, 3/20 of a cent sales tax, or 0.15 of a cent sales tax. Option 4, 20-year, 1/10 of a cent sales tax. Just a point to note, a 0.15 cent or 3/20 of a cent sales tax, which is the amount that is currently levied for Horse Thief Reservoir, generates a little over $1 million a year, $1,063,550. A 1/10 of a cent sales tax is estimated to generate $706,000, almost $707,000 per year. Do you have any questions of staff?
So can you remind me that how many years is the Garden Rapids? Was it a 20-year?
Yes.
Okay. So the thing is that I appreciate the 20-year more than the 15-year in the sense that would give us some opportunity to make sure, for future commissions not to have such a big payment. And I think as long as our last airport lasted, and I was going to say 1968, and I'd probably be wrong. Is that right? 1959. As long as our last airport lasted, the 20 years to me makes more sense at the 15-cent rate.
Any other comments?
I have a question.
Or questions?
Do we know what we have as far as what's going to be coming up off of sales tax in the near future? You said Horse Thief's falling off the end of this year.
Yeah. On this
The
presentation.
city has a half cent that will have to be renewed in 2025 of the 1 cent that we currently collect.
Okay. And, I mean, I do like the 20, but the 15-year actually helps us as far as an opportunity to have others fall off. We can actually have something that's replaceable on that. I mean, you can kind of look at it both ways, but if there's something else that's falling off, you can combine the 2 smaller ones to get a little bit better interest at that time, if there is. Who knows?
You mean combine the 0.25, you mean, with the?
In 15 years, it'll be up for renewal, correct?
Mhm.
Instead of 20 years.
Right.
So if there's something, I don't know if there's going to be anything else that's going to fall off at that time, but I'm just kind of looking at the other side of it. But as far as a 20-year, a 15-year,
I mean, the only reason I'm saying 20 years because of the size of the project. I mean, there's not many times that we build a $30 million
Yeah.
project. I
Yeah.
mean, the largest one that I can think of is Garden Rapids, which was around 14 million. So, and with that being 20 year, that's just my logic or my reasoning and thinking that, spreading that out, also giving us, opportunity to build our sales tax base also. So, I'm okay with either, but I just, giving us a little bit of room, but also knowing that this is one of the biggest projects that we really ever accomplished or that we're choosing to accomplish. With only $8 million,
Say we're only,
yeah, only
it's only $8 million.
Yeah.
I mean, only.
No,
I
they-
mean, it's $8 million. I mean, it's still significant, but
it's
yeah.
huge.
I do think a 0.15 cent sales tax would be a little bit easier to comprehend what's happening. I mean,
Yes.
in the,
Mhm.
going from the horse thief,
Mhm.
that amount of tax was going to the horse thief, and now it could be going to this. So it kind of makes sense to stay with, to me, it makes sense to stay with that rate, just for ease of understanding what the historic project was and what this new project could be. So that's kind of my thought on the difference between 0.15 or 0.1.
Yeah, I like the .15 just for that simplicity reason. And 15 or 20, I can see both sides.
I mean, I am encouraged that, the additional dollars could be used for things that really are, and we just had a really great public presentation about how important trails and sidewalks and parks and those things are. And we've never really had any dedicated funding. I mean, we're very little. So to me, this gives us a little bit additional dollars if we did the 20-year. But again, then you wouldn't have to reallocate this. And what's the, $8 million in 15 years, but.
Mhm.
So I'm good with either, so.
I'll make a motion that we approve the ordinance 2909-2021 for the amount, or to approve a 15-year 0.15 cent sales tax general purpose of the city of Garden City, including but not limited to improvements of the Garden City Regional Airport Terminal and airport infrastructure, and improvements to the Garden City parks, recreation, sidewalks and trails, and ad valorem tax relief.
A second.
For the 15-year or the 20-year?
15.
So that'd be
The-
option
no,
one.
Option number one,
Option one.
alternative number one.
I'll second
There's
that.
been a motion by the mayor and a second by Commissioner Euler. Is there any other discussion on that item? None being, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. That item passed.
Thank you. And I believe we need to take a pause or a recess. We, in order to get it on the November ballot, need to take this to
Oh, wow.
the county
Okay.
clerk as quickly as possible. So
Goodness, okay.
their offices have been closed for the last 2 days. Yeah. You might have to run.
Thank you. All right,
All right,
moving forward on
recess is over, huh?
moving forward on that.
Oh, that was a,
project.
that was a fast recess.
There's no items for old
So
business.
we'll be getting some campaign information to,
Yeah, the public
take out
information
and
to support
provide.
that will be forthcoming now that we know what option you've chosen. We can put that together and hopefully have that in fairly short order.
I really like the slideshow at the last pre-meeting with the
Yeah.
airport. That
That
could really
helped.
help us in promoting what the terminal will look like and
I
how that
agree.
will help us.
Item 12A, the governing body is asked to consider and approve a disbursement strategy for the first year of American Rescue Plan funds. The American Rescue Plan provides for uses in the following funding categories. We'll call this Category 1, supporting, that's maybe our words, not theirs, supporting the public health response. Category 2, addressing the negative economic impacts caused by the public health emergency. 3, serving the hardest hit communities and families. 4, replacing lost public sector revenue. 5, providing premium pay for essential workers. 6, investing in water and sewer infrastructure. 7, investing in broadband infrastructure. Based on the opportunities within the organization and those identified outside the organization through commission workshop discussions and preliminary solicitation by community stakeholders, staff recommends for discussion purposes the following plan for distribution of funds in the first year. The City Commission would ultimately approve the disbursement of funds within these categories, but the plan for year 1 would be as follows. In the focus areas, replacing lost public service revenue, $1,030,000. This is included in the establishment of the draft budget that you set for public hearing. In the focus area of small business and workforce development partnerships, $250,000. We would see a concept that would cover both categories 2 and 3. In the focus area of child care and early learning, $600,000 or category 3. In the focus area of workforce mental health program, which would be under category 1, $54,000. This has actually been included in your the budget that you've set for public hearing as well. This would be for the City of Garden City pilot program through Grow Well for mental health services. And then a focus area that we're identifying is promoting healthy childhood environments, $69,000, category 3. I'll get to that here in a little bit. Preliminarily, staff sees the following outlay for the second year, but that plan would be presented again at a future meeting after we kind of got the first year taken care of. But just for kind of preliminary planning purposes, in a focus area of replacing lost public sector revenue, this would not be in the general fund. We would anticipate this would be in the electric utility, which is under category 4, $711,000. Investing in broadband infrastructure, this would be specific to a city capital project, the new public safety gun range, $200,000, category 7. Public health response, this is an eligible capital expense if it's in the realm of public health response and the cemetery expansion, category 1, $300,000. Addressing the negative economic impacts focus area, $125,000, category 2. Serving hardest hit communities and families, which is the category title for category 3, $175,000. Investing in water and sewer infrastructure, $300,000, category 6. Mental health, that's a continuation of the workforce mental health program. Anticipated that we would continue that, $54,000. And again, you see that category of promoting healthy childhood environments. So to describe that in both years, the leading idea here is to develop physical infrastructure that would link safe and healthy bike and pedestrian ways to critical community service destinations from underserved neighborhoods or large residential population pockets. It's, I wouldn't say ambiguous, because I sort of see two areas as I read through all the support information and the Federal Register about what these monies can be used for and not for, that I could make an argument where that doesn't qualify, and I could also make an argument where it does. So we're going to investigate that a little further. The point being the motivation for that, the motivation for that type of infrastructure would be in that promoting healthy childhood environments. So if that didn't work, we would look to repurpose, potentially repurposing entirely in that category, if that was the governing body's will. So again, all distributions within the ARPA would be governing body's discretion, but we would appreciate you approving a year one plan so that we could begin bringing projects before you that we believe fit the category, and then once we do that, start working on the year two plan. Overall, the ARPA distribution is $4,006,000, again divided evenly between the federal fiscal year, which started this past July 1. We've received those funds already, and then the funds we would receive after July 1 next year.
think it appropriately funds all of the categories that really help our community move forward.
Yep.
I agree.
Any discussion on this item? Questions?
Can I-
Entertain a go
Can I
ahead.
just interject? There's one category that isn't addressed here, and that's category 5, and we submitted a lot of our, what I would consider category 5 items to the federal agency.
Right.
Which one?
Right.
Spark.
Well, Spark, and then what was the other, the FEMA, yeah,
Right.
Spark and FEMA. So this kind of fulfills those others that are maybe a little bit more broadly community-based, or the things that are specific to the city of Garden City that weren't eligible under either Spark period or Spark as locally administered.
Okay. Entertain a motion on this item.
I move to approve the plan as presented.
There's been a motion by Commissioner Dick. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Unruh. Any other discussion on this item? None being, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. That item passed.
Item 12B, the governing body is asked to consider and approve the Disadvantaged Business Enterprise Program for the Garden City Regional Airport. Rochelle?
Good afternoon, and thank you for your support earlier with the bond issue and the tax, sales tax issue. So every 3 years, we at the airport have to do a Disadvantaged Business Enterprise Program, which is in short DBE program for all of our federal contracts. The evaluation of that is included in the information presented, but it does have a calculation of current DBEs in the state and the type of work we're going to be doing, and that generates a percentage of how much of our contracts through AIP go to disadvantaged business enterprises. So this year it was down to like 3.3%. However, that was adjusted because previously we had acquired that through our previous AIP projects, so it's up to 5.5. So 5.5% of our AIP projects will be allocated to disadvantaged business enterprises. If contractors are unable to meet that goal, then they will have to provide information to a good faith effort to be able to try to attract disadvantaged business enterprises to be able to work on the airport on the federal projects.
Okay. Any questions? Entertain a motion on this item.
I move to approve the Disadvantaged Business Enterprise Program for the Garden City Regional Airport.
There's been a motion by Commissioner Euler. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Ortiz. Any discussion on this item? None being, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. That item passed.
12C, the governing body is asked to consider and approve the Airport Concession Disadvantaged Business Enterprise Program for the Garden City Regional Airport. Rochelle?
The Airport Concession Disadvantaged Business Program is also tied to the federal funds that we receive as operating an airport. So the goal of airport operations is to attract airport concessions that are DBEs. Unfortunately, there are none in our area and are very limited in the state that provide restaurant and concession services. Car rentals typically are DBEs, but ours are not certified DBEs in the state. So therefore, our goal is 0% for the next 3 years, and we'll reevaluate that in 3 years. And historically, it has been 0% because we do not have any local airport concession disadvantaged business enterprises.
Any questions on this item? Entertain a motion.
I move that we approve the Airport Concession Disadvantaged Business Enterprise Program for the Garden City Regional Airport.
There's been a motion by Commissioner Unruh. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Euler. Any discussion on this item? None being, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. That item passed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 12D, the governing body is asked to consider and approve 2 easement agreements with Wind River Grain LLC. Mike?
Good afternoon, Mayor and Commissioners. Staff, we've negotiated 2 easements with the Wind River Grain LLC. One of them is a permanent utility easement, and the other is a temporary construction easement. The purpose of the easements are for the placement of a new water main and other city utilities that will cross Wind River Grain's property. If approved, Wind River Grain will be granted 1 8-inch water tap on the new 16-inch water main that we'll be going up north on Jenny Barker Road. And that will be installed during the construction of the water line. They will also be allowed to construct additional rail lines across the easement should they choose to do that. That would have no impact on our stuff. It's going to be 20 feet below the surface of the ground there. And then the other thing is that they will not be required to participate in any costs of an additional southbound lane on Jenny Barker Road, should KDOT determine one is needed in the future. And that would be on the southwesternmost corner of that intersection of Jenny Barker Road and Highway 50. The alternatives would be to approve the easements with Wind River Grain LLC or do not approve the easements. And we recommend alternative one, approve the easements. There's no financial impact to the city. By approving the easements, the water tab agreed to will be included in the cost of the water line construction, and that would come to you at a later date when that's ready.
And Mike, does this impact their operations at all?
No.
Okay, I was gonna ask it earlier, but.
Entertain a motion on this item.
I move to approve alternate one, approve the easement agreements with Wind River Grain LLC.
There's been a motion by Commissioner Dick. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Ortiz. Any discussion on this item? None being, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. That item passed.
Item 12E, the governing body is asked to consider and approve the substation transformer bid award to Annixter GE Prolec for $768,261. Mike?
Thank you. Now, this substation class transformer is a large one. It's 182430 MVA. That probably doesn't mean a lot to a lot of folks, but it's a large substation class transformer. It's necessary to have in place to serve the empirical load when it comes online. The bids were opened on July 8th of 2021, and the Annixter was the low bid on that. The development agreement between Empirical Foods and the city of Garden City stated specifically that Empirical Foods would pay for any additional costs associated with providing that. They have provided so far the city with $502,176.90, which was 50% of the original estimated total cost. And with the price of everything else, that price has escalated. We've notified them. We'll book right here as soon as, if you guys choose to do this afternoon, we'll advise them of that, and then I'm sure they'll make arrangements to get that done. You can see the 7 bids that were received, and the qualified low bid was Annixter GE Prolec for $768,261 with an estimated delivery of 24 to 28 weeks. So the alternatives would be to award that bid or do not award the bid and ask direct staff to re-bid it. And the funds for this will come from the 2022 cash reserves when Empirical pays us for the remaining amount. That will just go into reserves, and we'll take that out when it's time to pay for that.
And Mike, where will this substation transformer be located at?
It'll be located in the substation that's adjacent to the Jameson Energy Center. There's a small transformer in there that serves part of that load in that area, and this one will replace that one. That one will actually move over to closer to the service center.
Entertain a motion on this item.
I move that we approve and award the bid to Annixter GE Protec for $768,261.
There's been a motion by Commissioner Unruh. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Euler. Any other discussion on this item? None being, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. That item passed.
Item 12F, the governing body is asked to consider and approve the acceptance of a Kansas Department of Transportation City Connecting Link Improvement Program grant for 2024. The improvements would widen Kansas Avenue from 3rd/4th Street intersection to Belmont Place.
Yes, again, the governing body authorized staff on February 10th of 2021 to submit an application to the Kansas Department of Transportation, KDOT, for geometric improvements to Kansas Avenue or K156. These improvements would widen Kansas Avenue to 5 lanes from 3rd, 4th Street east to Belmont Place. See on the map there, that's the last section that needs to be completed. This project is the engineer's estimate for this project is $1,603,201. On July 19th, 2021, KDOT notified the city that the project was selected for the C-CLIP funding for fiscal year 2024. And KDOT has allocated $1 million for construction and construction engineering for the project. The city will be required to contribute a minimum of 15% of the project cost or 100% of the costs over $1 million. Therefore, our obligation is at now is going to be the $603,201. This project was actually put out for construction in the 2019-2020 year. However, the governing body at its June 2nd, 2020 meeting was concerned with the financial impact due to the unknown impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. Therefore, this bid was rejected, and then KDOT has again then reapproved it for us down the road. So with confirmation from KDOT for funding for fiscal year 2024, they require confirmation from the governing body before September 1st of 2021 that it will have the necessary funds for this project in fiscal year 2024. The funds for this project will come from a general obligation bond that would be issued in 2023, or if you guys come up with a different method for us to pay for that at that time. But right now, they just want confirmation that funds will be made available for this last section of improvements. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
It's definitely a needed addition for the community. So entertain a motion on this item.
I move to approve the FY 2024 CCLIP grant and authorize the mayor to sign the agreement pledging that funding will be made available for the city's portion of the project.
There's been a motion by Commissioner Euler. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Dick. Any other discussion on this item? None being, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. That item passed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bear with me, I'm gonna have to do some formatting stuff.
Mhm.
Item 12G, the governing body is asked to consider and approve the proposed public art project, The Arch, El Arco, by Armando Menarez for installation at the corner of 8th Street and Stevens Avenue. And I'm going to invite Aaron Stewart to start this project off, and I believe we have some other guests as well.
So as you're aware, we've had a project going on 8th Street, and we're starting to make progress towards the end. And one of the items in that project was this sculpture that would go in at that 8th Street location. And I'm actually going to bring up the two young ladies that worked on the process to get the art selected, and they can go through it. But right there, a sculpture has been selected, and why don't you guys talk about how you went through that process?
Hello.
Good afternoon, and thanks for having us. My name is Melissa Gallegos. I'm the Executive Director of Downtown Vision, and then I have with me Katie Guthrie, Executive Director of Garden City Arts. Sometime last year, Garden City Downtown Vision was charged with creating or helping with this project with the 8th Street enhancements, and we were happy to take it on. We have reached out to the community as far as doing a public survey as well as a public meeting to narrow down the search. We did open up the bids. Katie had a bid process going on for artists to submit proposals, and out of the proposals that we received, the community picked, and we had two that came in for like the final proposals. And so of those two final proposals, it was submitted for an online survey for the public to give their input and their votes. And so we do have a winner, and it is called the Arch, El Arco. And I will let Katie talk a little bit about the artist and the process that she went through to gather that community input.
Hello, and thank you so much for hearing our proposal today. Armando Menarez has local ties to this community. He is a Mexican interdisciplinary artist. He graduated from Ulysses, Kansas, and then also from the community college here in Garden City. He has strong ties with this community and has put together a really wonderful presentation that we believe represents and is inclusive of all of the different cultural diversity that can be found here in Garden City. So if you keep scrolling, you can see the design proposal. Sorry, there's a lot of information. You can see the proposed design that Armando plans to create and then erect on the corner of Stevens Avenue and 8th Street. The sculpture is going to be interactive. There will be a reflective shield on the inside, that represents self-reflection. This material he is going to test out. We have a healthy budget, so he is able to kind of test out different materials to see which one is the best that will withstand not only our wonderful weather, but also the possibility of vandalism, so that it can be easily preserved and stand the test of time. The outside of the sculpture, there's some color samples of what he plans to use for the tiles as he is fabricating these, and he plans to do a photo transfer process using locally sourced images and transferring those images onto the different tiles to represent all of the different communities and historical aspects of, all of the different people in Garden City and the historical aspects of Garden City. So that is basically, in a nutshell, what this project will look like. And he goes a little bit through the process just to show you, and he also talks about the durability of the sculpture and the process of firing. It's a high fire process, so these tiles will withstand, again, our Kansas weather.
Any questions for them?
So how are the images going to be chosen? Is he choosing the images, or is he having a group of people choose the images that will go onto the specially made tiles?
Excellent question. Armando is very good at reaching out to the community, and he will source those images from interacting with the community, asking for people to submit photos. We plan on creating a data bank, either with the public library or with the Finney County Historical Preservation, so that those images can be viewed online as well as on the sculpture.
And I just have a question. I don't know if Katie, thank you for the process, and yeah, this is neat. But I'm curious about, will there be seating area around the arch, or is there plan that? I mean, it's not in the picture, but I didn't know if that's part of. I mean, if this is a park or how that will all work.
Yes, benches have been have already been purchased, and we already have received them, and there will be benches around in the commons area that will face the art piece.
So I was gonna say, I sat down on the committee that kind of went through this process, so the voting actually was pretty close overall when we dove into the local vote versus from statewide. This was a project that was the clear winner from that kind of aspect. So I don't know if there was any overall vote totals, but
I was surprised how many people from out of town voted, so that was,
Yeah, that was a lot.
that was kind of surprising.
Katie can probably speak to this a little more, but it was 85% of the total that came from Finney County for that winning piece.
I was kind of asked by community members too about the voting process, because there wasn't actually a tab to vote for neither, and so they had to choose one, and that kind of made them suspicious on that they had to choose an artist. I don't know how that was I don't know how surveys are made, but I was told that that wasn't an option, and it actually, so I went on when it was time to vote and noticed that there wasn't an option. So why is there a reason why there wasn't one for that reason, or?
Well, these were the two proposals that were submitted. It was between Armando Mineras and Toby Flores. There wasn't an option. I didn't think of that. In the future, that can be something that if we continue doing these public works of art, that will be included in the survey. Basically, those were the two options.
We also had a community meeting that downtown stakeholders were involved in as well. It was open up to the public. And from that conversation that we received from that community meeting, they were both very impressed with the works that these two artists had proposed and shown and done in the past. So we were very confident that out of the two, one of them would be capable and would achieve the desired outcome.
I don't have any doubt that these artists are probably really good at what they do. I was just expressing concerns from the community as far as what they've asked me, so I felt it was my duty to pass it along. But yeah, I just don't want to leave it without mention. But and then another fact that I do understand the construction of the piece. I'm concerned about the photos on whether those are going to actually fade throughout the time, and how much is it going to cost to get those replaced within a year or less.
excellent question. That was something that the sculpture committee did bring up. I did call Armando and speak with him about the process to make sure that this was going to be a long-term sculpture piece. We don't want to be having to replace this, 5 years from now.
Right.
So he did address that in the proposal. Because of the process, there's very low absorption rate of outside moisture, so I don't believe that it will have an impact. The weather will have an impact on these sculptures. And again, if there is vandalism that occurs to the sculpture, because they are not a non-absorbent surface and they're fired to a very high fire, I think it's cone 6, which is fired at 2,232 degrees Fahrenheit. Because of all of these factors, I do not believe that we will experience fading, and we can also deal with vandalism by removing it with, I believe he recommended a non-abrasive cleaner and a scrub pad.
I really appreciate his local ties also to Southwest Kansas and especially to Garden City, so.
Any other questions?
I kind of just have one comment, because I know the fact that like everybody wants to get some information from the public, and I don't think social media is really doing it for everyone. Unless we have a call center here in Garden City, that's the only way we're going to be able to reach out to everybody and get an actual good number as far as what we vote on and how things kind of get out there to the public. So I would just recommend that we all kind of stay on the same page as far as how we get information out and how soon we need to get information out and get this fly out of here. But I'm just kind of, just as a comment that I'd like to maybe see if we can pursue that or get something that everybody can work on and work together with as far as getting information out for voting on items like this. So great job, though. I appreciate the work.
Okay.
So just on the fiscal side of things here, there are 2 grants that are paying for the art project.
That's great.
And the city's portion will be at an estimated about $5,000, and that's to actually connect the piece of artwork to the ground out there. So, we'll work, Mike and I will work together to make sure that gets installed correctly. And hopefully, if we can do it before they've completed that particular spot, we can get the foundation set while they're still working on the project. So.
Entertain a motion on this item.
I move to approve the submitted art project installation at the designated space at 8th Street and Stevens Avenue.
There's been a motion by Commissioner Dick. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Euler. Any other discussion? None being, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. That item passed. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Great information.
Item 12H, the governing body is asked to consider and approve the acceptance of funds for the 2021-2022 Kansas Emergency Solutions Grant through Kansas Housing Resources Corporation. Trent?
Yeah, good afternoon, Mayor, Commissioners. So we have administered this grant before in the past couple of years. Melissa, who was previous with us, was kind of our point person for it. We are continuing to work with Catholic Charities of Southwest Kansas and then also Family Crisis Services. They're going to be the 2 subrecipients this year if approved. We received our letter of acknowledgement that we received the grant last year for the calendar year 2020 to 2021. It was $95,760. There was a reduction for this next 2021-2022 cycle, which is $58,541. Still, it's the Catholic Charities of Southwest Kansas Family Crisis Services that are both going to be the ones. There aren't any new recipients. From that, the city will administer this as well. Part of the $58,541. The administration fee is $1,541. That will come from that for the city to administer the grant. We have 2 alternatives to approve and accept the funds for the 2021-2022 Emergency Solutions Grant on behalf of Catholic Charities of Southwest Kansas and Family Crisis Service. Or number 2, governing body may deny. Staff recommends approval or alternative number 1.
Any questions? Entertain a motion on this item.
I move to approve to accept funds for the 2021-2022 Emergency Solutions Grant on behalf of Catholic Charities of Southwest Kansas and the Family Crisis Services.
There's been Motion by Commissioner Euler. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Unruh. Is there any other discussion on this item? None being, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. That item passed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 12I, the governing body is asked to consider and approve appointments to the Kansas Municipal Gas Agency Board of Directors. Mike?
Good afternoon again, Commissioners. Garden City is a member of the Kansas Municipal Gas Agency. Garden City has representation on the KMGA Board of Directors. Myself, the Director of Public Works and Utilities, have represented Garden City on this board as the primary, and Kent Pottorff, the Electrical Engineering Manager, has always served as the alternate. My term expires on August 31st of this year, and a new board member needs to be appointed. The recommendation is that, Kent has served as alternate for the past 2 years. He's attended all the meetings. He's done a very good job. If you would consider appointing Kent Pottorff as the primary board member, then I would become the alternate. We would recommend number one is to appoint Kent Pottorff to that 2-year term as the Garden City's primary representative to KMGA Board of Directors, and myself as the alternate. We would recommend alternative one, and the only financial impact is if there's any travel associated with that, which is budgeted in the electrical budget under GL Code 8414-5443, which is travel, and we budget that at $40,000. And feel free to call Kent up and ask him about a million questions.
That would be, yeah, so, well, we realize if we send him, we're sending one of our finest, so I don't know. We want to make sure he comes back home, so.
Entertain a motion on this item.
I'll make a motion to appoint Kent Pottorff to serve the 2-year term as Garden City's primary representative to the KMGA Board of Directors, and Mike Muirhead as the alternate.
There's been a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Dick. Is there any discussion on this item? None being, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Item 12J, the governing body is asked to consider and approve one appointment to fill a vacant seat on the Cultural Relations Board. And I'll invite Claudia Valencia up, who's with our Human Resources Department, a new face to some of you, but she's going to be our liaison to the Cultural Relations Board.
Excellent. Welcome.
Good afternoon. I'm here before you today for the Cultural Relations Board appointment. The board recommends Carmen De La Torre to be appointed to the open board position that expires December of '22.
Entertain a motion on this item.
I move to appoint Carmen De La Torre for the vacant position with a term ending December 2022.
There's been a motion by Commissioner Euler. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Ortiz. Is there any other discussion on this item? None being, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. That item passed. Thank you very much. Good job.
Claudia.
See, they're not scary. Item 12K, the governing body is asked to consider and approve the notice of hearing to exceed revenue neutral rate and budget hearing for publication. Melinda?
Okay, at the July 20th City Commission meeting, the final budget changes were presented, resulting in a 38.562 mill levy rate for 2022, no change over 2021. Based on the city's valuation of $224,446,000, this will generate $8,655,051 in 2022. The city provided notice to the county clerk that the city would exceed the revenue neutral rate. At the September 7th, 2021 meeting, a resolution declaring the city will exceed the revenue neutral rate will need to be considered and approved before you can have the 2022 budget hearing. So to refresh your memories on the 2022 budget, I know it's been a while, we did get a lot done in this budget. So in personnel, in 2022, we added one position in the airport for a custodial position. We added one position in the communications department and also a veterinarian in the zoo. So those were all good adds for you for 2022. Also under the pay and benefits for the 2022 salary pool, It was increased from 2% to 3% due to increases in the estimated cost of living, which is part of the city's step and grade pay plan. Now, here's all the projects that you're gonna be doing that you didn't have to do debt financing on, which is great. The first one is cemetery expansion in 2022, 300,000. Cemetery roads in 2021, you've got 120,000. Municipal court evidence in 2021, 2.3 million. That's an internal borrowing. The police department will be paying that back over 7 years. Dean Wiley improvements, 225,000 in 2021. There's golf carts being looked at for internal borrowing for the golf course at 100,000. Community sidewalks, 55,000 both years. 8th Street project, which is almost done at 2.251 million. That's in 2021. We had a $500,000 GO bond in 2019 that helped with the financing on that. We've got golf course renovations both years at 25,000. Just recently, we purchased land on East Highway 50 this year at 120,000. The 2nd Street, Maple to Riverside, 370,000. You just received the bids on those, and that's a reallocation of the 2020 bond proceeds. We've got a public restroom going in at 80,000 in 2021. Ben Grimsley Lighting in 2021 for 375,000. And the aviary at the zoo in 2022 for 285,000. So those are all within the budget, so we call that pay as you go. So then the GO bond that we're getting ready to issue currently has the airport terminal and facilities at 8 million, Fulton Street drainage at 600,000, Southeast Community Park at $1.6 million, Finup Scout Park at 800,000. So those are the projects that are in the bond. And so everybody needs to get their shovels ready because they're going to be busy. The only remaining item in the city budget is the health insurance renewal that is being worked on now with our consultant. It will not have any change to the budget publication though. So the alternatives is to approve the notice of hearing to exceed the revenue neutral rate and the budget hearing for publication, or do not approve. Staff recommends direction on the notice. All budgeted funds in the city manager's proposed budget total $166,674,671. The general fund projects a growth in budgeted cash balance from 3.3 to 3.35, and this is consistent with our financial management guidelines. That number may look a little big to you on the 2022 budget, but it does include a $28 million airport terminal facility, so as a one-time expense.
Any questions for Melinda? Entertain a motion on this item.
I move to approve the notice of hearing to exceed revenue neutral rate and budget hearing for publication.
There's been a motion by Commissioner Dick. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Euler. Any other discussion on this item? None being, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. That item passed. Thank you very much. Good job.
The notice should be in the paper on Friday.
Okay.
Thank you, Melinda. We don't anticipate any action being necessary after the executive session that's identified in item L, so I would encourage you to give consideration to the consent agenda. If approved, it would be items 1 through 3.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda, items 1, 2, and 3.
Okay. There's been a motion by Commissioner Ortiz. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Unruh. Any other discussion on this item? None being, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. That item passed.
If
We'll
you'd
go
like to do
Commissioner
Commissioner
reports.
report.
Yeah. Commissioner Ortiz.
Okay, well, as far as looking forward, I'm looking forward to the actual coalition meeting, the annual meeting that we have with SWKC, or SWK, yeah, that's right, Southwest Kansas. Acronyms, they trip me up all the time. Yeah, the Southwest Kansas Coalition annual meeting. So as we attended that last year, is that right?
Mhm.
Yeah, in Dodge. So
Yeah.
that was a really well participated meeting with all of us there. So I look forward to the next one coming up, and that's here on the 26th.
Mhm.
So 5:30. I'm really looking forward to that. Also, they have applied the traffic study strips there on 156 and Jenny Barker. Started yesterday, so they are taking account as far as how much traffic goes through that area. So if you see those strips, that's what those are, just taking account for that vehicle traffic. I did also had some questions about the scooters that are going around in town, the bird scooters. So I thought I'd just bring that up. I think we need a little bit of direction or just clarification. There you go, thank you. As far as how those things are operated, if they can be slowed down on Main Street in different areas where there's pedestrians walking. So those concerns have been brought up to me, and I think it is probably best that we actually take a look at that to see whether or not we can dial those down a little bit within pedestrian walk areas. So that's just a concern from public and passing it on. Also, just with school, I think my kids are excited to be back. I think it's great to have a normal schedule again as far as being able to wake up in the morning, go to bed at a decent time at night for those kids to get up and be at school on time. So just be aware of those traffic signals going on. There is also some traffic workers that are helping the cross guards, helping students cross the streets and helping parents and those whatnot just cross the street. So be aware just of those helpers and watch out. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Euler.
I enjoyed the pre-meeting. It was very informative, and it's always nice to see the community, coming together and coming up with what they want to see going forward in the future. I enjoyed going on National Night Out. Thanks, Chief, for letting me ride in the Bearcat, which makes a very big impression when you pull up to a party. But one thing that, was interesting, you're driving down the street and you're stopped at a stop sign, and there was someone who drove by and gave not a very nice gesture to us as we were driving. And the person driving said, "You didn't see that, did you?" And I didn't even know that this was something that happens on a regular basis. And it just kind of surprised me and floored me. I just, you guys do so much, and, you show up to work and you do a good job, and then, you just stopped at a stop sign on our way to a party. And I couldn't believe that. And so thank you guys for what you do and for what you put up with, and just making sure that we stay safe and that your officers get home safely at the end of a shift. So thank you. I also want to say thanks to Aaron and all of his staff for the pool. It's almost Labor Day. And so that inaugural season, it's always an interesting, you just never know how it's going to go. And with it being COVID and, everything else that you've had to deal with, you guys are, you're almost to the finish line. So good job on, to Parks and Recs for everything you guys have done. I'm excited about A Street. It's something that we've been planning forever. And just to see it happening, and every time I drive by it and then, approving the artwork. So great things happening. That's all I have.
Commissioner Dick.
Couple things that people have already said. Thank you, KDOT, for hearing our call and at least measuring that intersection to see if it warrants a signal. I have confidence that it will be a little bit different than last time when they measured it. Like Commissioner Ortiz said, please pay attention that school is in session. College just started up yesterday. So even crossing along campus, you don't usually think about that there, but just make sure you pay attention to that. I was going to say, good job with Pig Pool, the first season with that being open with Garden Rapids. Great new addition to our community, or rejuvenation of an attraction to our community. And then finally, just congratulations to Garden City Wind. Ended up a couple of runs short of making it to the championship series, but they had a good season, good turnout. I think they were putting in record numbers for attendance during the playoff series. So look forward to them next year. And that's all I have.
Commissioner Henry.
So I want to say thank you for the comprehensive plan update. You know, the one we did 10 years ago really guided, and we accomplished a lot in that plan. And so this plan is really important. Some of the same things are showing up. And again, but I'm excited about really the amount of community input that's happening with the comprehensive plan. And I think we've chosen a really great organization or a company who's really done that. Again, I also want to say, I know Aaron will miss being at the pool. He doesn't think so right now. And all the lifeguards. I know when the pool closed, there's kind of that letdown. There's an excitement, but also a letdown. But it's been an incredible season. And just to see that from start to finish and built in a year, you think about what an accomplishment that is. I mean, this is a huge accomplishment, just what's been done. And I love going down and seeing it still continue to be improved and still cleaning up. And so, you know, this is something that's going to be here hopefully for 100+ years on that too. Also, I know that recently the census, some of the census numbers are coming out, and that's really going to be important for all of us to really pay attention to those numbers. And I really appreciate, I know Matt's been sending out some really valuable information. And also, so if you are not paying attention to where some of those things are, make sure you get a hold of one of us or also the city, because those census numbers are really going to make an impact in what happens here over the next several years. The last thing I want to is just say a compliment to the Garden City Police Department and say thank you for the rollover accident. I heard several compliments. That's not something that happens on 8th and Mary or even within the city, and so but the people who were involved and also the way it was handled was really done well, and people felt safe and they also felt taken care of. So I did want to say thank you to that, and I've had a lot of fun with the Garden City Fire Department, seeing them around, and I really am excited about the plan that's coming out of the organizational study. And I'm looking forward to hopefully helping build that into a stellar organization, just like we have our Garden City Police Department. So with that, that's all.
For me, just great pre-meeting and moving us forward as a community. Town Hall meeting will be coming up on the 31st of this month. As our other commissioners have noted, just reminding everybody to please slow down in the school zones, as well as watching out for the crossing guards trying to get our kids across those heavier intersections in a safe manner. And then today we have approved a lot of big items to move our community forward. And one of those items is for not only the city staff, but the commissioners to get out and to promote the upcoming continuation of the sales tax. We have September and October because November 2nd is the vote. So we need to kind of rally and get out there and communicate with our community on that issue. On that, we will go into executive session. If there's no other discussion.
No, I did want to, I know Aaron just completed a pretty big event, and I was going to ask you to come up and talk a little bit about the siege. I don't know if you, because I know it was a really big event. I wasn't here this weekend, otherwise. I don't know if I would have been in the mud, but I would have been otherwise.
Yeah, what happened to the commission team that was supposed to?
Yeah, it was a great team.
It went fairly well. We had about 170 participants, which is up from last year.
Wow.
Finished right around noon or 1. Had a little snag with the timing, but the company went back and got it worked out. So things went well. That's the short version.
No, thank you. I was going to ask earlier, sorry.
Thank you. Who do we need in the executive session?
Yeah, Mayor and Commissioners, the request for an executive session would be for consultation with an attorney for the body or agency, which would be deemed privileged in an attorney-client relationship. Mary Carson is the city's counsel that would be joining us by phone, along with Tyler Heffron and myself and Melinda Hitz. And the specific purpose would be the discussion of litigation. Can we start it at 2:25?
Sure.
Give us a chance for a natural break, and then also to get the phone
It is.
situation figured out.
And how long?
And then probably for 25 minutes then. So
25
from-
minutes?
From 2:25 until
To-
3:50, or I'm sorry, 2:50, 2:25 to 2:50.
I was like, that's, yeah,
That's
To 2:50.
not 50.
sounds like my math.
Does somebody want to make a motion on that then?
I'll give it a
Or
go.
Give it a go? Okay.
I move that we go into executive session pursuant to KSA 754319B2 pertaining to consultation with attorney for the body or agency that would be termed private, privilege and attorney-client relationship. President would be Barry Carson, Tyler Efron, Matt Allen, Melinda Hitz, and for the purpose of discussion of litigation, to start at 2:25 and last 25 minutes till 2:50.
There's been a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Any other discussion on this item? None being, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. That item passed. We'll go into executive session at 2:25. At this time, we will recess.